Today's show is brought to you by Audible, the leading provider of spoken audio information and entertainment. Listen to audiobooks whenever and wherever you want. When you sign up for a free trial at audibletrial.com/RRN Live. Pick out a free audiobook with over 150,000 titles to choose from major authors to New York Times bestsellers. audibletrial.com/RRN Live. And by Racket Sound Lighting and DJ Services. For big production on a musician's budget, contact Bob Tolar at 225-773-4639. All right, here we are. Sounds of Louisiana on the Radio Random Net. We're back. Now, Mudtooth is not with us this week, but no worries, because we have a special Mudtooth Christmas episode next Friday. You want to tune in, because there's no telling what Mudtooth's going to talk about, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be myself and Mudtooth sitting around talking about Christmas, about BMI, about all kind of stuff. But anyway, none of that matters right now. What matters is this week. Thank you for hitting the download button. Thank you for listening. I am #RDM Russell Devin McLean. And this is Sounds of Louisiana on the Radio Random Network. This week I sat down with Light of Day, Baton Rouge rock band. I talked with Mr. Mike Allman, Mike DuPont, and the one and only John Jojo Ruiz. Had a great conversation. We recorded the interview. It was awesome. Just like all of them go. Everything. It's badass to sit down and network with musicians, but it's even more badass when you sit down and you learn. You sit under the learning tree, so to speak, and learn what it's like to be in the, I guess, rock genre, the challenges, the ups and downs, what these guys go through week in and week out to play gigs, to keep gigs, to get themselves out there. It was pretty awesome because, my background, I come from a variety of music. I'll play anything, but these guys, I mean, it's a genre of music I've never played before. It's rock. It's a little heavy. It's a little grungy. It's a little bit of everything mixed, but it's awesome. And they're musicians on top of that. And they had a lot of respect for the music scene, and they had a lot of great knowledge to share. It's a great, great interview. I want you to stick around and listen to it. Right now, what I'm going to do is pay a bill, and then we're going to go to the interview, speaking of which, I would like to send a special shout out to my homeboy, Zeke Thompson of the Cosmic Cowboys. We're going to throw it over to the interview that we recorded Tuesday night with Light of Day, JoJo, Mike, and Mike. Let's do it. Crank it up.
Hot dang. Ever want to be on a wacky TV show? Well, here's your chance.
Holy!
Hillbilly Horror Show is having a contest, and the winner gets a walk-on role in Hillbilly Horror Show Volume 5. Hang out on set with the cast, and yeah, fellas, that means hanging with the lovely Miss Lulu featured in Maxim.
You smell like the inside of my mama's purse.
Head on over to hillbillyhorrorshow.com to enter and join in the fun. And be sure to check out Hillbilly Horror Show Volumes 1 and 2, now out on DVD at major retailers and Amazon.
All right, I'm sitting here with Light of Day, John Ruiz, and I was going to mention the name of him. Brother Mike and
Mike.
Brother Mike, T. Mike and Mike. It Sounds of Louisiana. It's December 19th.
17th.
It's the 17th, but we're going to pretend it's the 19th.
It's the 19th somewhere.
Well, y'all already know this shit's pre-recorded, so it ain't no big deal. This probably be the first time you will ever follow Wayne Toots. We had Wayne on last week. That was pretty cool. You know who Wayne is?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there was a few things I couldn't talk about. He went into detail on a few things, but anyway, it's y'all's week. It's y'all's turn. Finally, it's been almost a year, and since we started, I've told John, I want to get you on. I'm going to get you on. And then people be like sending emails and stuff. We're not going to get that Light of Day on.
That's awesome.
And then I finally get a break to have him on, and I send him a message, and I say, bro, I want you and the Circle of Light to come on the show. And he's like, oh, bro, thanks. That's great, bro. I can't wait. But who the hell is the Circle of Light?
I mean, I'll go find them and give them a ride if I have to.
It's the Light of
Big
Day.
hookup.
I was like, how the hell? It's been a year. How the hell have I messed that up? So, it's crazy. Well, we'll get started right from the beginning. Light of Day, where did it all start?
We had a little jam band with me and a couple of my friends, and we brought in a bass player, and he decided he wanted to get some professionals in there since we knew about a total of 2 songs that we played very poorly. And they kind of put it together, and they pulled Mike in, and this is our resident fretboard wizard. He's a freak, and every time I watch him play guitar, I want to punch him in the face.
I'm the only hired gun that doesn't get paid.
Exactly.
You're the hired gun that doesn't get paid. Well, actually, I seen the YouTube video. Was it of you the other week? You got down on some blues. Was it?
Yeah. I play a little bit. I can't multitask very well. So
it's either one or the other.
Yeah, it's going to be one or the other, and I can't do either one as well as he can, so we let him handle it. They brought me and a good friend of ours, Steve Sandifer, in, and neither one of us had ever been in a band before. So we got our little light of day meeting together at Hooters, and everybody's like, well, who do you sound like? I don't know. Well, what's your range? I don't know. What songs can you do? I don't know. And they all looked at me and was like, damn it.
So
this isn't going to go very well at all.
So what is your rank? No, I'm just kidding.
I still don't know.
So, I mean, this isn't your first band that you've actually, I mean, is this the first time you're actually in a band as a vocalist?
Yeah. Or at all.
At all. So this is your first run?
Yeah.
And how long we've been running?
2.5 years now.
Wow.
And I think their idea was, let's just throw everything at all of us and see what sticks. And we kept playing harder and harder stuff and more difficult pieces, and we're like, wow, all right, maybe we got something going on here. So I learned to sing, learning to sing songs to keep up with these guys.
Yeah. And it evolved.
Yeah, kind of. Just go where it works.
Well, Mike, when did you start? When did it all start for you on the guitar?
Oh, I started at age 14.
Age 14.
Yeah,
now,
Eddie Van Halen was the catalyst for me. When I heard that guy, it was on.
So you come from the rock and roll genre? Has that always been your...
I've always been the hard rock, a little on the metal side. Not so much into the thrash metal. I've been more musical side, where it's been a little more melodic. Queensryche, things like that. Things that were a little more technical. Something that made me work on the guitar a little harder.
Yes, indeed. Always a challenge.
Always a challenge.
If I got out of the blues scale, bro, I'm lost.
That's one of the things me and him go back and forth with, because, like, you get me out of A minor pentatonic, and I'm just putting my shit in the case, and I'm going to the house. Like, that's it. But I will wear that scale out.
Oh, yes. Be good all night.
Yes, sir.
So you are also, Mike, the drummer, Mike.
Yeah.
He also plays guitar as well, but in the light of day, you play drums.
Yeah.
Where did it all start for you, man?
Well, I was at age 5. I used to play in a choir, church. And my aunt...
That's where he went wrong.
My aunt was actually the influence.
Welcome to the dark side.
Yeah.
And then, as the years came about, I started playing drums, and I had my first band at 13. And never did favor one or the other. Just played guitar and drums all the way through. And was lead singing the whole time, even with the Britney Spears mic on. And got into swamp pop, got back into rock, flip-flop back and forth, and here I am. They called me to do a little an audition, and I got the gig.
So, I mean, going back and forth, is that a challenge for you as a drummer?
Not really. I'm actually, I'm left-handed, and I play the guitar right-handed.
So
Watching people.
He's left-handed, plays on a right-handed kit, and kind of looks like an epileptic pterodactyl. It's pretty awesome.
Well, I mean, we were talking about going back and forth now as a vocalist. You also moonlight as the lead singer of the Cosmic Cowboys these days.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Like, I took my wife out to Superior Grill one night, and Kelly's like, hey, Tommy's leaving. What are you doing? And I was like, not singing those songs because I don't know how. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. So I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And it was odd because this is the only band that I've ever been in, we'll play a song 50 times before we ever play it live. But when we play it live, like, it's spot on. And Zeke's like, learn these 20 songs and see you Friday.
Yeah.
And it was like,
it's got to be harmony.
Wow.
By the way, you got to sing harmony with a female.
Yeah. With Kelly. And I mean, she's
She's a good vocalist.
insanely good.
Very good.
So she put it to me. Like, she was like, you're gonna do this. And, I did it for a little while, and then they got a guy that came in permanent, and then, he left, and I came back, and it was a lot more fun this time. Like, I had a little more confidence, and Kelly was like, yeah, we got this. So Zeke pushes. Like,
Yeah.
he pushes.
Been at it for a long time.
Yeah. I was sitting here with him, and it's like kung fu on the side of the mountain in here.
When you walk through the door, you named Grasshopper.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I mean, you go from, and I don't want to, I mean, we were talking before we turned the recording button on, we were talking about the getting stereotyped as the, the thrasher. Somebody hears rock or somebody hears metal, that's the first thing that comes to mind is, oh my God, you ain't going to be able to understand nothing. But it's not like that with you guys.
No.
It's it's music.
Yeah, like I can turn on Slayer and immediately go to Otis Redding and get the same warm, fuzzy feeling all day long. Cause that's how, growing up in my house, like, my dad was the blues guy. My mom was Jimi Hendrix and CCR. My aunt was Farron Young, and they played it all the time, every day, and I learned to appreciate all of it.
So, I mean, do you have the support of your family behind you with the music thing?
Oh, absolutely, except for the fact that my dad's like, that boy's playing that heavy metal, he's probably on cocaine.
Yeah, that's another stereotype. I mean, just a musician.
My wife says, have you seen how fat JoJo is? That boy is not on cocaine.
That's a muncher. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, you talk about your wife too. I've been in, and you guys, I mean, you seasoned as well. Not that you're not seasoned. I mean, 2 years you're paying your dues, and you paid your dues. I mean, going back and forth, hell, I couldn't do it. It would either be the rock and roll or the country for me. I mean, I probably couldn't even do the rock and roll. I mean, you have to have a certain growl, a certain feel in your voice to sing that. But you talk about your wife. How does it balance at home from being, you live in a nightlife, then you got to go home and be.
She's completely behind it. We've been married for 16 years now, and it was always just kind of the two of us. So it was like, wow, okay, what's going on? And it just kept getting bigger and bigger, and she loves it. I mean, she loves it.
I think she kind of pushed you to it a little bit, didn't she?
Yeah.
The plus that he's got is that him and his wife work together.
Really?
The only thing they have to talk about after is music.
Yeah, that's it. Because we spend all day, every day together, and can't talk about work. So, What's going on with the 10 bands you're in now?
Right. So, I mean, what do you do what's your day gig?
I work for a carpet cleaning place. We have, I run the carpet cleaning side. We paint and drywall and all that stuff, and I just kind of manage the whole thing. So I've gotten it finally to the point after 10 years where I can just kind of ride around and not get tired so I can go play on the weekend.
Yes, indeed. What about you, Mr. Mike?
Automotive service.
He works for Porsche.
I work in a chemical plant. We make some pretty bad stuff. So if I don't call or don't show up for the gig, well, something happened.
Yeah.
It's pretty major.
No, that's some dangerous shit. I used to work offshore. That's for a whole other story, though. I didn't like that shit. But anyway, back to the music. I mean, so taking off, you're off and running, you're doing the Cosmic Cowboy thing. Life is great right now, I guess, as far as the music thing goes. Now, here's the other thing, and then I guess this is for everybody, the market for the genre that you're playing. I mean, the market for music, period, is really taking a nosedive within the past few years. Now, sticking to that one genre of rock and roll or metal, or how is it? What's the market like? Where can you play at?
Right now it's a hit and miss because we don't have a promo pack out there to hand someone, and all they want to hear is about 15 seconds of what you got. They want it all in a nutshell. But going to certain places after we play, they want us back. As far as some of the venues that we might be able to play, some of them are kind of small, and you have these, I call them bed and breakfast bars, but when people go out to eat they don't want to really hear good music. To us, it's an art. We enjoy doing it.
Well, definitely.
And the feel on stage might not be what the people want to hear. The age group is a little bit different. You know, people that still enjoy going out and listening to the music and not just going out just to go out. So some of the places it's a hit and miss. Most of our other places we're down on money.
Do you find that that you were talking about the age thing, and this is something that I noticed too a few months back before I completely got out of it, was the younger generation, not against them, but there's no appreciation. There's no, how do we put it? I mean, from the age of 25 to 45, you're like, Guitar Hero.
I have a big theory on that. It's when we were all kids, like if you wanted an album, there was a process. You were going to rake some leaves. You were going to clean out somebody's ditch. You were going to make that $15 that weekend. You were going to find a ride to Baton Rouge to go to Sam Goody's. And when you got there, by this time, there's 14 other albums you want. And you're like, this is a critical mass decision now. And I'm going to pick the one I absolutely want the most. You put thought and heart and back and sweat into getting this album. You bring it home. You study the lyrics. You try to draw the cover. You know this album inside and out. And you appreciated it. It was a tangible thing. Now, I hear 8 seconds of a song on the radio. I Shazam it on my iPhone. I download on iTunes. There was no effort. So there's no appreciation for having the music. It just flies right into your life, and you don't have to do anything to gain it.
And there's a second side to that, is that it's now a music industry of immediate return. There's no product development, no artist development anymore. It's one hit wonder world. And if you don't hit that first album, you're gone. And so the record companies aren't investing in artists, and they're not investing in real musicians. I mean, we're in the cookie cutter mode of music right now.
It's I mean, I don't know if I'll be able to, I don't know if I'll air this or not, but to break that down, in my position as, working with Spectrum Music Group as A&R, I take that very serious. And you can ask, there's guidelines. And to be honest, there's so much talent in the state of Louisiana, it's almost oversaturated. But for the guidelines that I got to follow to send somebody to be reviewed, to be signed, either you've already had a record deal before they look at you, or you've got to really stand out. There's guidelines I got to follow. And it's just like being at an arcade. I've only got so many coins, so to speak. So I can't, as an A&R, I can't waste my time. Like if I said, hey, light a day. And
the real musicians are getting left behind.
Exactly.
I mean, it's coming down to electronics and studio wizardry now. The real artists are not there. They're not being promoted anymore.
You're right about that.
I have a prime example of, remember when Boston came out, when Tom Schultz did his thing? He actually produced all his music and did not have a band to actually play live whenever it first came about.
Right.
So that goes to show you how far technology has come since that point.
Well, just playing guitar. Just learning how we're playing an instrument. Y'all play guitar, I don't know. In my day, I had like you said, you worked for your shit. And I had a Walkman. And it didn't have a rewind button. It was a fast forward button. And when the batteries start wearing down, the tape would drag. Yep. And then after because you got to learn that one little part, trying to get that signature. You're flipping it and fast forward. It's over with, the tape's dragging, and then the shit's all out of key, and then
we all remember sitting there trying to make the top 40 mixtape. Like, don't nobody walk in here, and you got to hit recording, and the song started, and the idiot won't stop talking, and I'm like, come on, man, I got to get this one. I've been waiting 4 days to get this song on this tape, man, because I'm going to send this song to this girl, and then she's going to hook me up.
Yeah, there was no text message.
They don't know how to do that. Bro. It's a playlist, and you download it all, and there's no sitting there with them fingers like in ninja mode, ready to record that song. It's all gone, and it all just makes, now you got YouTube giving away an album.
And it's so
how scary is that?
And it's image driven so badly now.
Yes, it is.
But you're so beautiful, Mike. That's never been a problem.
It is. That's what I mean.
It's a sparkle in my eye.
If you want to stand out, you got to have something. You got to have a gimmick. Yeah. That's psychology, period.
And usually when we play I'll put some paint on my face. You know, just do something to kind of throw a little bit more action to the show.
And that's why your drum kit keeps getting bigger and bigger in front of you.
Yes. The last gig we played, we wasn't sure what the other guys were going to play. We were just going to use their kit and stuff. And they ended up breaking the set. Broke the stands, flattened out rims, and put dents in the kit. You know, just trying to play our type of music. And it wasn't that I was playing too hard. It's just, I guess, my dynamics.
Right.
And everybody enjoyed. You know, the sound guy, he was like, "Man, y'all really kicked ass." You know, it wasn't. You know, it sounded great. Everything was dead on the money. So yeah, well, I need a little bit more durable set, you know, here. So, but we have fun.
Everybody have fun with the other drummer.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it was probably about $100 worth of damage. So,
I did that a few months ago, and it had been a while since I'd gotten on stage, and I'm a very, you know, passionate player, I guess you could say. You know, I get into this shit, you know, and I'm 320, you know, so if I stomp, man, I'm breaking something. And old boy had his homemade pedal board with the wah, you know, and I'm up there jamming and go to hit the wah and I go straight through the pedal board, bro. I mean, broke the whole damn thing. And like, they was all like, "Dude, you can play it." I'm trying to get my foot out to the pedal. I mean, it's through the stage. It's crazy.
You won't be doing any impromptus on my stuff.
No, and I really don't like. I'm not the type of player that if I go out, you know, I like to enjoy being on that side because I've never really been on that side to listen. I've always been there with a purpose. Right. So I'm not the kind of player that really likes to go out and sit in on other people's shit. You know what I mean? Because you're not gonna really get me. You're gonna get me
on this guy's stuff,
and it ain't gonna sound, you know.
Yeah, I tried to play on Mike's pedal board one time, and I'm pretty sure I launched something out into space.
Really?
It looks like a Christmas tree.
So where do you guys? I mean, where's some of the places? Where are some of the venues that you play?
We usually hit Magnolia Sports Bar pretty regular. We've been going to Brick House in Houma. We used to play at Extra Innings when they were still around. We just went to Twist the Lime in Metairie last Friday. That was a cool little place. That was fun. I'll play at your mama's garage sale if you want us. I don't care.
That's the same with me. I mean, if you paid me, I was there, man. I mean, it's $150. I'm a whore, pretty much. I mean,
I look at it like I'm 20 years behind getting to the game. I didn't start playing music till I was 34, so I'll play anywhere with anybody, anyhow, whatever y'all want to do. Like I'm game for it.
and it's not so much the money. Yeah, the money's nice, but as far as the enjoyment of playing, that's what we're into. We all have jobs,
right?
You know, we know how we take care of our family stuff, and we enjoy ourselves doing our hobby.
It was kind of like that for me when I first started, to be honest. But you get there and it's the same place, it's the same bar. It don't matter where you go. And I played with assholes, a lot of them, really. And it's the same thing. It's like the Nashville Star. You know, he's going to Nashville. Oh, well, you know. You get in there and it's the same song list. And then you realize, you know, you're in a different place, but it's the same place you was at last week. It smells the same, looks the same. It's almost like a marriage. And then finally you just get enough. It's like a bad marriage, I'm sorry. I love you. I don't love you. Yeah, we're talking on the way home. But it got to the point where it wasn't enjoyable. Like, you either pay me or, you know, somebody said that, like, it's about the music. What about the music? Like, on my couch in my drawer, it's about the music. I can sit there and play for myself. But if I have to sit here and play to you because you're drunk and you done smoked that pack of, you know, Reds, you know, Marlboro Reds, and drink, you know, half a fifth of Jose Cuervo, and your breath stinks. I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
Pay me. But that's just a growing thing. It's just something that you go through.
One of the biggest things I think for us is like we legitimately enjoy hanging out with each other. And like when we go play, everybody gives 100% because these guys playing with so many different people and being in so many different bands. And me, I've always loved live music. That's all been my hobby, is to go and watch bands and pay attention to what they're doing and sit there and go, man, I really want to do that. You know, I really want to do that. And just kind of assumed, yeah, I'm never going to get to do that, but I do. So I want every time somebody comes to see us to go 2 things when they leave. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect them to be that good. And to go, that was different. That was different. You know, I just want everybody to know that, man, if you look like you're having fun, people around you are going to have fun.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's in any part of your life is like that.
Exactly. It's okay, Zeke. Zeke Thompson, we're using Zeke Thompson's studio this week, and yeah, there ain't no shushing about it. But anyway, let me ask you something, because I mean, you got that ruggedly you're ruggedly handsome just like yourself. So, whenever, and this is almost like a game I used to play, I swear to God, and I would go, and I would put my name out, Russell McLean playing every night, whatever. So nobody really knew me, and I'm a big guy. Looked pretty rough. So I would walk in and I would sit at the bar and I would hear them talking. They wouldn't know who the hell I was. This is like 2 hours before the gig. You would hear them playing there, Russell McLean. Like, what's he look? Never heard of him. It's like, well, you heard he's like a big dude. It's like real sloppy. They'll sit there and talk about you and like they don't know who you are. And then it's like the shock and awe factor. And then it got to be a game. Like, hey, motherfucker.
Well,
this is me.
Yeah, that was fun for me because you know how it is. Like everybody that plays music around this area, they've all played music and they've all been in bands together and they all know each other. And it's the same 5 guys and 4 different bands and it moves around. And I think one of the things for us was like, oh, where the hell did they come from? Because Steve's up there and he's playing guitar and I mean he's doing the damn thing and I'm up there yelling and screaming and acting the fool, and they're like, where the hell did these guys come from? And I like that because nothing motivates you more than being the underdog.
I've always been, and then I got to, I ventured out actually in professional wrestling and learned psychology. And I took the psychology of being a heel wrestler and come back and actually put it to being in a band. Now, mind you, sometimes it would be like old war, where I would get on the microphone and like, especially when I first come back from wrestling, I gave up the wrestling thing, went back to playing music. So I'd get up on there and I'd have to talk and, you want to kick in and be like, I'll tell you motherfucker one thing, and you can't do that, then you have to go into, hey, everybody's having fun, I had to kind of thought process. But as far as like working the crowd, the psychology part of it, I put that in there. I mean, is that something that, do you know can you read a crowd?
It's progressively, I feel, gotten better. Mike does all of our videos. Like, he videos everything we do, and that way we can look at it and make it better. And he splits it all up, and then he usually calls me and go, you curse like a oil worker. I can't use any of this.
It's hard. A lot of people don't understand. You get, I don't know if it's what you would call it. It was adrenaline.
You get pumped up.
Yeah, and I mean,
something else takes over. You like channel. You gone, bro.
You go and watch bands, and you can tell this guy's been doing it for 25 years, and he's got his little thing down. And I usually don't know what I'm gonna say until after I say it, and sometimes I go, "Well, that was retarded," but everybody's laughing, so I'm cool. They can laugh at me. They can laugh with me. I don't care.
Have you ever stuck yourself out, like, way out on that limb and was trying to come back? And you turn around in the band, they just, like, kind of turn their ass to you?
Not yet, but it's coming.
Yet,
No.
I've done it.
Now, we all missing a piece of the pie. Brad Waldrop, good bass player. I've been playing with Brad for a long time. Anyway, he's a big motivator. He's got a lot of stage presence, running back and forth, and he really helps us as far as putting the show together.
It's all Zeke's fault.
So I get motivated, when I see him hollering like he's out of his mind, and he turns around and he'll bump into them, and it's fun.
Yeah, me and Brad have had some pretty gnarly collisions on stage,
I guess
he's got an absolutely wonderful attitude for this because he's been I give him grief about being old, but he's been doing this since I was 6 years old, and he truly gets excited. I mean, he gets super excited to do this, and he was like, if this is the last band I'm ever in, I'm good with it. And he gives 100%. He's also just enough of an asshole that I can call him and ask him if something worked, and he goes, no, that did not work. That was stupid, and don't do it again.
Well, honestly, that's what you need. I mean, just like, when you're learning, the
constructive criticism.
Exactly. You don't want a bunch of yes, and I can't stand that. Don't tell me the shit sounds good when it don't. I don't want to get up there and like, man. Or I don't want to try something and then I was like, how was that? And they're like, oh man, that was awesome. And it's like, I get in the car with her and she's going to tell me because, I think, that's just her job. Like, that fucking sucked.
Everything we do, is my first time doing it. So I really rely on these guys, for advice and opinions because I don't want to make them look bad. I mean, these guys are super talented. And when I'm in the practice room sometimes and we'll do a song and I just have a little moment of clarity to where I look around and go, man, these dudes are awesome. And it makes me just want to work that much harder to be a part of it.
One thing you do, especially, learning. And you guys, you've been there, you surround yourself with musicians that are way better than you are.
Amen.
And then people will say, oh man, he's old. Well, yeah, he's old because he's been there. And now he's going to take me where he's been. And that's something that, a lot of guys have done. I know I did it. I had it with, the guys like Steve Haney or Eddie Williams. He used to play with Zeke and the guys. And those guys wasn't yes men. They would, you would do something wrong. I remember taking a lead, I'm playing lead, and I take a lead, and Steve's like, turn around and, he turned my amp and shit. I was like, don't turn that back on until you learn some dynamics. You just made us sound like shit. I was like, brother, my name's on the sign. I don't give a damn,
But, I'm surprised it didn't take that long for us to actually gel. We did gel real quick. And we was up and running within 2 months.
Yeah, with the old lineup, I think we went 2 years and didn't write anything. And the third practice we had with the four of us, we wrote probably two of the best songs we have.
So there's a process of being original.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
Yes.
So it's not just a
No.
cover band. You guys are doing the damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
So is there an album, or is there an album in the works?
There's an album coming. We've got probably 2 more songs that we need to write, and then we'll be going into the studio to finish the full album.
Yeah, we have a studio down in Addis. A guy that I work with, he owns a big studio in DB Customs, and that'll be sometime after January. And we'll get in there and we'll lay down our music and get some demos going. We got photographer that comes around and she's gonna get us some professional pictures, and we got all the paraphernalia. We got hats, t-shirts, bracelets.
Paper bags and pins.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really boosting up. I'm looking forward. January, February, we're gonna do some real good things.
So how far are you guys wanting to take this with the album and everything? Are y'all want to stay local, or are y'all looking for a road?
I don't really think, and I think it's kind of the beauty of it that there's not a real expectation
Or limit.
Yeah. I'm gonna say it like Brad would say it. Music is bigger than all of us.
Yeah.
Because there's no limit. So hopefully, we just want to keep everything going and just have fun doing it.
Yeah, as long as it's fun, we'll keep pushing it.
That minute it turns into work, it gets serious. And that minute it gets serious, it's time to go to the house.
Yeah, I have been in those animosity bands where you just, there's so much tension that you can cut it with a knife.
And then on the way home, like, you think about it, and you think, like, we played Rosie's Bar, and they ain't had but 30 people in there. Right. And there was that much animosity on stage for what?
Yeah.
You had to practice on stage.
Right.
Yeah. The bartenders.
Right.
We want to thank Bobby for coming out tonight.
Yeah. Right. And he turned around and cut the big, I hate you. I was like, why? You know, I mean, well, as far as being on the stage and like you got your original stuff that you're working on and everything. How does the crowd take to the original music?
They love it.
They really do. Like, more and more people, and that was like a mind-blowing experience for me to have people singing your words with you. That was insane. That was the coolest thing ever.
You know, we always keep it musical, and it's always a group effort. Nobody just writes a song, everybody else learns it. We all put our parts in together, and it just flows together.
Which is always a lot of fun because, like, you know, I kind of came up playing guitar wanting to be Johnny Cash. Just I'll boom chicka all night long. Boom chicka, boom chicka. So then the sludgy kind of metal stuff, you know, Down and Crowbar. And Mike's on the opposite end of the spectrum. He's all Steve Vai and John Petrucci and melodic and big. And, well, if we ever find that perfect middle between those two, man, it's going to be unreal.
And I promised that I wasn't, you know, just coming in the band. I was just going to take a back seat and, you know, enjoy the ride. Second song he wrote, I cut it to pieces. And, and it actually, it fit. Right. You know, so I think, you know, we complimented each other as far as laying down the music. And now it's stuck. And it'll always be played like that. And it's good.
Well, it's crazy how them things works out. Whenever you sit down and you plan everything out. And then you just throw yourselves to the wolves. And usually when you throw yourselves to the wolves and you just throw everything together and you go in there. And that's when you're like, oh, we're just going to play a couple times a month. That's usually the shit that takes off. And it seems like that's what you got done.
Yeah, I mean, you know, JoJo, for the most part, has probably written all the lyrics so far to the songs we have. And he'll get these little licks going on what he wants to try to sing it with, and he'll kind of get a little structure going, then it kind of gets turned over to me, and then I'll take it to the next level, and it just turns into something bigger. And it gets a little more breath in it, and it'll get a little more easier going with the vocals. Actually, I make his job easy sometimes with the things that we do musically.
So then him and Brad step in, telling me how to do the beat, and it's like look, you need you to do duplaca.
Yeah, it started
blinking.
Yeah, it sounds like everybody's speaking a Swahili language. No, to click it, the black it, the black it, the click it, the black it, the black. You got me though. You got me.
And I'm like, okay, does this sound? No. Give me the sticks. And he goes like that, and I'm like, okay, I think I can figure it out.
And then the whole time, everybody's laughing and having fun, and we'll go in there and beat one of these new original songs to death, and it never quits being fun. Like, it never is like, all right, man, it's, you know, 9:30 on a Wednesday, I gotta go home. It's like, no, we're gonna do it.
We've been at the practice where, okay, practice is over with, okay, we're talking about everything we need to talk about. And I'll be damned if we call each other on the way home. Mm-hmm. You know, and then the texting, and you know, I'm trying to go to sleep. I get up early in the morning, you know, go to the chemical plant.
We know who's old.
I hear boom, boom the whole time, and I'm like, girls.
Yeah, my wife calls it the light of day sewing circle. The group text. That's y'all sewing circle.
We're always thinking about the music. It's always about something, making it better, making it bigger, adding something, writing something.
And whoever's going to Guitar Center, look, you need something? Well, I'm picking this up. Or we're on the way to practice, man. I've been eating ketchup packs and butter all day. Who's cooking or who's bringing
the food?
Just something.
We're lucky because we're all friends and nobody's on dope. Nobody owes anybody any money. Yep. Like,
no
all of that that you see with all these rock bands, they have all this kind of bullshit between them. We don't have it. Like, everybody shows up to the gig and their head's in the right place. Nobody's arguing with this one or fighting with this one. We never have to contend with every that. So we can take all that negative energy and put it into bamming out these songs and playing the crap out of them.
Yes, indeed. Now, as far as, you got a following. In the market, we talked about something. As far as the Louisiana scene for the rock and roll music, how does the promoters or the bar owners
they usually put the least amount of effort into promotion as possible, which is, you know, Facebook's a great tool.
Yeah. It's not like it used to be. You used to be able to go hang your signs all over, you know.
Street team.
Right. But it's not like that anymore. you don't have that type of publicity. The Facebook is pretty much like you said,
social
the
networking.
only tool that you can actually get to people you know and people you don't know. People in the area. It's going to be a hit and miss. People that live around that area, if that's their hangout, they'll try something.
Just being adventurous and taking gigs that probably don't make the most sense. We went and played in Lafayette, and there was 8 bands in one day. I think we were second to last.
Yeah, something like that.
It was 6 death metal bands. And then we got up there and did a rock version of Phil Collins' In the Air Tonight. I mean, it was growling and face paint and just like they had the most insane. And these guys are like, dude, when we leave here, you're a dead man.
Look on their faces, you know.
Everybody got pushed in that corner, and man, we came out of that, and we did well. I mean, we got
actually won the crowd over, and they
wanted us to come back, and it was the whole thing. But we were so out of our element. But me personally, like, I needed that. Like, I needed to know what that felt like to be completely out of your element and still do it. That's how it was the first time I went and played with Zeke and them. I mean, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing here. And let's go sing some Jason Aldean and see what the hell happens.
And I think that we were a breath of fresh air that day because after hearing so many bands that were almost to the point you can almost say were just noisemakers, to hear some real music, even if it was hard rock, coming off stage was just a breath of fresh air. Would have been there all day long. I mean, there were certain bands I was watching, I was like, what are these guys doing? That's the first thing I'm thinking. You know, and they were well equipped to do what they were doing, but I couldn't take it.
Judgment out there.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about the stereotype.
Yeah, and as long as we keep it not so cheese grater, but not so Jimmy, I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah, it's going to be enjoyable. It's going to be melodic. It's going to have some real nice structure. It's not just going to be a straight beat with somebody screaming over some drums and a guitar that's all detuned down to A flat. It's actually going to be things you can really enjoy listening to over and over again. And that's where we're taking it.
Yes, indeed. We got a few minutes left. Where do you guys see yourself in 2 years?
Sitting here talking to you.
Yeah, you're right. Celebrating the anniversary of this interview.
I can come in and be bragging, dude. I talked to Willie Nelson. No. Yeah. Well, what is,
there's an underground hard rock and metal scene in this area that really doesn't get talked about a lot. And it's out there. It's just underground. You're not going to see it at your bigger places where all the country acts are playing. And, as they were talking about earlier, the Superior Grills are not going to have bands like us. Things like that. But there are places where these bands are playing. And they're out there. And you'll have bands get together, 2 or 3 bands pull a show off. And they'll actually book the varsity. Just nobody talks about it. It's just not mainstream. And it's out there. And we're part of it.
And we'll find everybody who wants to listen to Light of Day. We'll find everyone we can.
But when I first broke in, and it's something. Music is like it's like an evolution. It always comes around. It always comes.
Because music always finds a way out.
Exactly. When I first broke in, I'm competing with guys. Well, it wasn't a competition because I already give it to him. I was going to do what I did, and if you didn't like it, go on. And in some places I was accepted, and some places I wasn't. But you go from, I'm a country boy, Chase Tyler, nothing against Chase, or a guy by the Tidal Mills, or the Gillis Silos, I guess. And I was brought up in blues. I cut my teeth with the Creole man, Everyday Frederick from New Orleans. This cat's in he's in the Hall of Fame down there, and I played, black clubs and was accepted because that's what I loved it. And that's how I sound. And, that was my shit. And I remember going to play a gig and saying, you play too much blues. And then 2 years later, they couldn't get enough of this shit. Right. So, who's to say within the next 6 months? Because music changes every day. We had a conversation on the way over here. Music changes every day. Who's to say tomorrow this shit don't break loose and country music or, really country they're trying to. I mean, they're trying to be rock now. Anyway, I don't think they're confused, but that shit don't take a back. Who's to say they don't take a back seat? And the rock scene is up front.
Yeah, it's usually about
the 80s.
It seems like every time the boy bands show up, real rock follows it. Like you start to get the garage bands, you start to get the independent bands. So whenever the boy bands show up, give it a year, and real rock will come back.
You get it to the extreme, and the scale tips back in the other direction.
Yes, indeed.
As long as we stay where we at and keep writing, and we're not going to change who we are because this is what we enjoy. And just to cater to someone else that you might have a different style of music than what someone else has. That's, if you don't like it, you don't listen to it. But as far as if we stay on key where we're at, I think we're going to do very well.
I agree. I think you keep chipping away at anything, sooner or later it all comes full circle.
Sure. Worked in Shawshank Redemption.
That's right.
Any inspiring words for any musicians that want to follow in you guys' footsteps? Any bands out there maybe on the same path?
Do whatever the hell you want to do. Just do
don't
it
give
the
up.
best way you can.
If you knock down, get back up.
That's it. Any links, websites?
lightofdaylive.com. Good old Facebook.
Light of Day Live.
Light of Day Live on Reverb Nation. You can go by Mike's house, make him sing you songs.
Yes, indeed. Well, that's all the time we got this week. I want to thank all three of you guys for joining us. We was missing the bass player, but for John, Mike D. I'm #RDM, Russell Devin McClain. Join us next week when it's going to be me and Mudtooth. It's the Christmas special. God only knows what Mudtooth's going to have to say. Dude's crazy. But we'll talk to y'all next week. Take care.